righty. Thank you for your patience. Let's get into it. I was hustling so hard to get done with 2022. Oh my God. And then I just got to a point where I was like, all right, I need like a few days. I think, well, I didn't really get a rest because I was doing live sessions, maybe about one day of rest. Or no, I didn't. One night maybe. But the point is that, you know, sometimes you just need that. Actually, wait, no. Yeah, Friday after basketball, I didn't have a session. Saturday, yesterday I did, and tonight is Sunday. So yeah, I had one night, and then today I wrote all day. So yeah. But let's hide your name. Okay, take that one away. So let's turn, so camera, no, stop video, share screen, and then we need to have, I'm just doing astrocartography, so I need to have all my asteroids. Ooh, interesting. Actually, I've already looked at your chart, I forgot. So make sure that my internet. So I have to use my freaking hotspot. So awesome, right? That's some fun stuff right there. And it fails sometimes, but I have to like keep my phone screen on or it like turns off. So I need to put this charger in here. Okay. Apparently Instagram is dead right now. Wow. Oh, wow. Hopefully it doesn't die forever. Because I would be pretty screwed. No, I wouldn't, but I mean, yeah, I would. That's like the only place where I really have content. I mean, I guess Twitter at Jesse Astrology. I tweet, but that's like brand new or like 2 months or 3 months. I don't know. Anyways, look at what we got here. We got a chart that is very interesting. A chart I've looked at. So you're very lucky, okay? Because I teach astrology one-on-one, private, and I pulled a random chart to test my student, and it happened to be yours. So let's just say that, well, she kind of was able to dig into it, and I didn't like, I wouldn't say I like, got to the bottom of it and like really, really did like the complete deep dive, but I definitely not like the first time I've seen it, We had it open for a little bit and we were looking at some things and I was teaching her how to make these connections and all that cool stuff. We got Esme here too. I didn't even see Esme's here. That's a really, really, really good sign. Esme's my Astro Cat on Instagram at Esme cat astrology. She's the #1 astrologer cat right now in the world, actually. Took my backup account, so she has more followers than a lot of astrologers, but that's because that's my backup. And if I ever somehow lost my account, sorry, Esme, but that would be mine. For now, it's the little Esme's. And we'll see. She actually does help me in my readings. People don't believe me, but yeah. Anyways, okay, so let me get into this. So Mercury ruled chart with a Virgo rising. So Mercury square Uranus. So right off the bat, there's a signature that you have in your chart where South nodes is Pluto, which basically, karmically, it's signifying that this life, I'm just gonna be very frank with you. This is like a classic chart of this of basically like you've been working very hard at like a very strong karmic impetus, right? Karmic goal. This life is almost, but this life has a lot of the indicators of a life that is like a karmic do-over. I know that sounds heavy, but I'll explain. So the South Node is conjunct Pluto, which speaks to in Scorpio, of course. So your North Node, right? North Node is what you're, where you're trying to get. Then Taurus. So people who have that, right off the bat, I'm like, okay, there's definitely some past life trauma, right? The South Node ruler is Pluto. It's conjunct the South Node, and this past life trauma is what is keeping you back from your karmic goal, which is really to find embodied peace within yourself, right? Taurus, North Node, often, the energy there is, it's trying to get past, with Pluto especially, past lives where there was traumatic endings or where there's just something difficult that happened. You follow me? So, the fact that it's 3rd and 9th, we'll talk about that later. But basically Mercury, right, is your Virgo rising. So Mercury is your chart ruler, making it a more important planet than it otherwise would be. It is conjunct your descendant, meaning that it's opposite the ascendant, meaning that and it's retrograde in Pisces. So people who have Mercury in Pisces, I have it, but I have a Kazemi, which basically essentially makes it so I don't have it. It's like, don't worry about, unless you're studying astrology. Kazemi is when you have Mercury so close to the sun that Mercury becomes a superpower. Mercury is the brain, the mind. So what but basically Mercury in Pisces is extremely intuitive. And it can be so good when it comes to like anything related to spirituality, anything, literally it's like I had like this astrologer from back, like way back in the day, this guy in Shasta, and he told me that Mercury in Pisces is the connection to the other side. I thought that was pretty cool. So it's retrograde natally. So when you have Mercury retrograde natally, you know that in a past, there's meaning in this life around, or there's something in a past life that you're here to kind of analyze, what you said, or like I think of it more as like not having spoken up or having spoken up too much, not having like having had like kind of like a something with respect to, and we'll see, you'll see like what I'm talking about, but with respect to the kind of messages you tell yourself, right? And it stuck with you, right? Because Mercury retrograde people, sometimes they can just overanalyze, right? To the point to where it's like, what good is this really doing? Um, and the goal from like a karmic astrology perspective is for you to, especially like in the first 30 years, right? To really look at yourself. And let me check. Hold on. Something just came up. Okay, I was like, is Sydney? Sydney's in Nova Scotia. Okay. I still feel the need to look at something, but I'll keep talking while I'm looking at it. Oh, but Instagram's fucking broken. But maybe it's my email. It is. Okay, so I'm good. And you got just the reading. Might as well just once again verify everything. 46. Yeah, so it is perfect. Okay, cool. Let's go back to share screen. So basically, this is interesting because when we look at the nodal axis, we wonder, okay, so there's the Mercury retrograde, and I'm telling you that there's something that happened, or there's something there's something that you're based in the first 3 years of this life that you're meant with Mercury retrograde to be more like the cognitive process is more introverted, right? There's more of that kind of inner thinking, inner wondering, inner trying to figure, like, so Mercury retrograde people can sometimes be very shy. You are an Aries sun, okay? That's 8th house Aries. Um, and very, very important is this square with Mercury and Uranus. So this is super important because so Mercury retrograde also, like when you're younger, it's, typical. It's not out of the question for you to kind of be, you know, Uranus square Mercury can make someone a little bit like ahead of their time is one way to put it. Where they feel like kind of aliens, like kind of like there could have been some bullying, some being ostracized, ostracization. I always say that word wrong. Ostra Ostracized, whatever. Just being kind of having a difficult time with communication at the basic level, but then having like this very deep intuitive understanding, but having ideas that maybe other people find strange, or you know just yeah. And then the Chiron. So when I was going through this chart with my we didn't like go crazy on it, but like I actually was with my student. I was like, I haven't even seen her Chiron yet, but let me guess. It's probably Gemini. If not Gemini, it's Virgo. And it is Gemini. How did I know that? Well, because I've done enough charts to know and to I'm all about seeing trends and all that. Is that the Mercury in Pisces can make someone it can make the mind kind of wander. It can make someone like really like it's important to have alone time and to really like to have discrimination around like what's your thought and what's the other person's, right? Because people with this can sometimes cling on to other people's they'll the boundaries between them and others are less, right? So it's kind of like it's very important to understand that. And when you've been around people a lot, to to retreat and to then be able to know, okay, that's my thought, this isn't mine, right? That can make you very psychic. But there can be lots of rumination as well. And overall, you're trying to kind of reprogram your own mind in this lifetime and refine peace. Taurus, peace, right? And the way that happens is through ninth house, which is traveling and learning, wisdom, right? Um, Venus is ruling the North Node, so it's in the eighth house, in Aries, in the eighth house of your sun. So that's speaking to one way, which is like exactly the Scorpio process. It's about going back into the past, right? Into the shadow of yourself. And having an eighth house Venus is quite nice because it's almost like a flashlight within your own shadow realm. Oh, and I don't even have this as full sign because I do. What am I talking about? What the hell am I talking about? Um, so I think of it like the eighth house is the house of death, rebirth, transformations, the Scorpio house. And having Venus there, it's very interesting on many different levels. On the love level, it can create all kinds of secret love affairs and just very passionate kind of in that area. And I think also what it can do is it can illuminate the areas of life that are a lot like it rules death, so it's favorable for a long life and some there too, and it's also very favorable for either an inheritance or benefiting, marrying someone wealthy, benefiting in some way from that, right? From other people's resources. And yeah, so that's kind of like the key to really unlocking the chart. Now, back is the deep shower. Now back to the Chiron. How do I know Chiron is Gemini? Well, Chiron Gemini represents someone who has pain around speaking their voice, speaking up, speaking their truth. So a lot of times in their, when they're growing up, which you see the Pluto in the third house, there could have been like some kind of, I don't like to say like traumatic, but like, kind of like mini trauma, or just like, just a difficult experience. And it could be siblings, right? But just around, like, a big purpose of the life for you is finding your authentic voice and not being afraid to let it out. But there's past life fears that are related to that very thing. Um, so yeah, like it's not easy, but at the same time, that's the karma, right? The karma is so in terms of you and just the general energy, there's definitely something that needs to be looked at, right? Something very deep that needs to be looked at. Um, I would say that having Jupiter, in a loose conjunction with Mercury can definitely add a level of I guess you could say like a level of expansion and ability to sort of see the bigger picture. And but yeah, like overall, like the Uranus square Mercury and Pisces in retrograde, it can just make you feel very misunderstood, and like your message that you're trying to get across can come off like, very rebellious, but like it can just be like you can just feel like not heard and not understood. Um, and even by your own family, because you're born right after a full moon in Libra, because your moon's in Libra, and you see that a day before you were born, there was a full moon, because Libra would have been here. It would have been at like four, well, 5 or 4 Aries. So, um, basically, yeah, probably exactly end of 4, so 5. So, as you know, like in like the days after a full moon, energy calms down. It's really like when you're that lead up time to the full moon that is difficult, right? So that's the same energy that you take into your life. Um, and I definitely think that I definitely think that let me see one thing. Yeah, but that's yeah. So like I definitely think that the whole idea of this energy of like this, like Chiron conjunct midheaven, is someone who's meant to be a healer. And because the midheaven is in Gemini, the amount of clients I've had who have had career changes or done 2 different careers, maybe if they have like the hobby. And I love it because they had that fifth house Capricorn, right? With Neptune in it. Um, right, which rules your Mercury and your, the ruling planet of your chart. It speaks to, how you're able to, at a high level, make what you do for fun, um your your job, basically, right? Kind of how I have it. I mean, I love doing astrology. It's literally fun for me. So, that's very important. And what it all kind of equals to is someone who is meant to go through a level of difficulty, especially early in life, so that they can then overcome it, right? Um, Now, is that easy? No. But, everything related to karma, we have asked for. Not consciously, like in this lifetime, but, we've asked for it. We've asked for this to be the lesson. So I just want to kind of have that be known. But yeah, anyways, like when I look at just like, so Saturn on the IC also, right? That would speak to a childhood where there was a feeling of restriction around, and then it's retrograde, so that also it's on Antares. So, that would speak to a childhood where you probably felt like, okay, it's still showing, where you probably felt, like it was quite difficult to, where it go, to, like lots of restriction in your childhood, right? And there's all these signifiers in your chart of someone very bright, but who's probably misunderstood, maybe got, labeled as like ADD or ADHD or something like that, because Mercury retrograde people, they are right brained. They are meant to be doing lots of artistic things that activate that more abstract part of the brain. So I would guess that, and I know a lot of Mercury retrograde people that have done fine academically, but when it's in Pisces, now of course it is, you do have a Virgo rising, which is really helpful in this situation, right? Because Virgo adds, the rising will add a lot of rationality, but there can still be lots of mental confusion. And finding spirituality could be like the best thing possible, especially with Jupiter in Pisces. That's just like mega potential for becoming like a deep spiritual seeker and teacher. Now, one thing is to not become overly obsessed. Um, but I still don't really see signifiers of that. That just kind of came out of my mouth. But um, usually when that happens, there's a reason. And I swear, like, just, I don't know. Um, but yeah, so with the I want to stick on Saturn for a second, right? Because with Saturn on on the IC, like, strict parents often, like you just not feeling like you could really like be yourself and really speak your mind, feeling different. And with Uranus there and Mars, it makes me think that maybe you I mean, a lot of people that have that, I noticed that they tend to try to get out of their household quite early, um, and quite comfortable with change. Mars in 29-degree Sag in conjunct Uranus, they're, I would, I don't like to guess if the parents were divorced, but the sun opposite moon, right? As I was telling you, about like the full moon, kind of like how it's sort of like there is that energy of opposite Saturn, sun in Aries and moon in Libra, which I'll talk about. But how, yeah, there's a high chance that if they're not divorced, that there's some level, a big level of kind of disagreement around them, right? And their worldviews, which can be confusing for the kid. Now with Saturn in Antares, which it's right on there, it can cause issues sometimes with like with honesty, um and issues like with strong enemies, like relatives that kind of sabotage them. So also there can be issues with like actual mobility, like it can cause someone to like have to walk with a cane or have some issue with walking. Um, and at the lowest energy, there can be like this feeling of like feeling like too good or too self-righteous to help others. That's just the potential. But I don't feel that here. Um, it just doesn't make sense with the rest of the chart. So yeah. Um, I just think that Sun, like I'll talk about axis in a sec. But yeah, overall, like the Saturn there, it's difficult, and it just kind of perpetuates this idea of like, and then with Black Moon Lilith in Gemini, also, you know, if someone has had to like kind of bend their truth, um, almost as like a survival mechanism, like what they believe in and that and so forth, like then they can really Black Moon Lilith in Gemini, you really have to watch out for lying and just I'll go here for a second. Yeah. Just like watching out for lying and because it can have like big karmic there can be like lots of negative karma that can come from gossiping, lying, kind of like low Gemini stuff. And it's interesting because your third house south node, so you know, it could also just be about not enveloping what your north node, the ninth house, is asking you to envelop, which is the higher mind, right? So you're being asked to philosophize in this life. And when you break down Black from Lilith to a fear, it's fear of rejection in Gemini, right? A lot of times the people are terrified of other people's opinions. Um, and they want this like acceptance by everyone. So sometimes they can, reject others before they get rejected, right? Um, and there can be like a big struggle also in like defining like kind of like what you like individuality, which goes with the Mercury, the Pisces energy, right? Like your tastes. So it's like you have to ask yourself, like, am I doing this for me or for someone's approval? So this is what's really important. I'm gonna go back. I like being off camera. I like being in the shadows. Is that Black Moon Lilith could also be something great, and that's a huge part of your chart. One of the biggest karmas is finding your true voice. As I said, third house Pluto, it's like there could have easily been energy in past lives where you were lied to, and you kind of blindly believed, like just like what's going on today in society, right? People are blindly believing things that are bullshit, and then it guides their worldview and what they think that is important for them to do for a career, or just like, whatever, right? So in this life, you're meant to be the detective, the person that goes deep. 29 degrees Sag Mars, the traveler, the explorer, the person that says, okay, I hear you, but I want to go and really truly see that for myself. You know, I want to be it's about being the journalist, which is third house Gemini, and then the person that takes all that journalist or all that data, right, and connects it into guiding philosophies. That is a big part of the overall karma. So I think that we bring in the other act. Yeah. So when it comes back to like the whole North Node journey of finding peace, like I said, that's done through shadow work. That's done through going deep into kind of the self, I guess you could say. And just figuring out, figuring out what, because like what can happen in a chart like this is that there can be lots of relationship projection of the deeper issues. So when you start to see, okay, these might not, these can be coming from, past lives, everything kind of switches up, right? So, yeah, it's very important to know that. But there is some really, really faded energy in relationships. Vertex, Pisces 7th, Jupiter 7th, like part of fortune, right? Oh, your part of fortune's on my sun. That literally, I know it sounds weird, but it means that I'm meant to be your astrologer. Um, but overall, overall, there's also an energy of needing to have discernment and to understand the balance between assertiveness and giving your power away. In past lives, it's very likely that you gave that power away. So in this life, you're blessed with different circumstances where you're able to see things more clearly. Even though you do have this retrograde Pisces, the way to use that is through having a creative, artistic, an artistic outlet per se, right? And on top of that, Pisces 7th, you can kind of think about how that can be done with a partner, right? Where it could be good for you to have a partner who, they're going to need to like truly see you for you as this very rare individual, right? Who can be quite misunderstood. Now, I know, you're past your Saturn return and you've probably worked through a lot of this stuff. However, it still is important. note all this. And you really need to watch out for being fooled, especially, you know, when it comes to love, right? Um, so like the wisest advice is to really, really take everything slow when it comes to relationships. Um, and to, you know, perhaps even have a friend, you know, if you have a friend that's more that's you know, quite balanced, I guess you could say, grounded, who can give you kind of that feedback, that real, just like no bullshit feedback. Um, you know, that's huge. That's massive, massive, massive. Now, but yeah, like what I see a lot of times with charts, like, or with this type of thing in charts, is people who can be, yeah, kind of manipulated easily. So it's important to, and like I said, you know, everything is worked through, gets worked, you know, gets worked through. The chart is, you know, it's how your free will intertwines with the chart at the end of the day. Um, that makes everything be how it be. Um, but yeah, like, that's just one potential. But like the seventh house itself, it's like it's not bad. It's just, it's actually very, very romantic. It's just that, you know, there's eh, it's just very important to, yeah, to choose the right type, the right ones, you know, to take your time and choose the right types of individuals. Now with you know, with that energy there, it's interesting because with the Mars energy, you know, you could be interested in, you know, partners from different different backgrounds. So there's all kinds of potentials. Um, all kinds of different potentials. Um, and yeah, just the idea of being that seeker of truth, and probably like a very unconventional home life that you'd be garnering. You know, you even have Juno in Sag, so like your ideal partner, probably there's some element of, I guess you could just say, you know, like it's not like that, like that the individual has to be from a different country, right? But they do have to be someone that brings you something on a philosophical level that you don't have. Um, that's massive. So, um, yeah, like that's kind of like the big thing here. Um, and also someone who's who's an adventure partner, who's willing to go and travel and go to different places and have like, and they don't have to be like, I understand the struggle, you know, and I know, I don't know, like, I don't like guess sexual orientation. I've had, mostly heterosexual clients, but I've had, some lesbian clients, some, you know, gay ones. So I just don't even know. I purposely don't look at any of the any of the your profile or anything like that. So I just have no idea. That's the whole point for me. Um, right. I don't want to know. I don't want to know until after. But yeah. So escaping home, feeling kind of misunderstood, learning how to kind of regulate and make it so, you feel like, you know, at ease, I guess you could say, in your everyday life, really, really important. And after that, we talk about your sun, your moon, how they're opposite signs, and we talk about this axis of Aries and Libra. And basically, that is a karmic, it's very karmic to be born on a full moon or close to full moon because of the opposition between sun and moon, right? Um, and the whole principle here, right? The whole principle is very linked to the extreme, right? Like the extreme version of Libra. The extreme version of Libra is I guess you could say complete codependency, right? While the extreme version of Aries is I don't give a fuck, you know, like just whatever, I'm doing me no matter what. I do not care. That's kind of what it is, right? And finding that middle ground is what's really important because like Libra moon sometimes can be a little bit disattached from their emotions. But at the end of the day, there can be an undertone of codependency. But then being an Aries, that's the complete opposite. That's all about, the need for independence, the need to go out in the world and just be you, like really just be you. Um, so that opposition is not easy. I don't want to convey that at all. And oftentimes what can happen is that the individual can favor one of the, they can either like be like in your case, like really in the Aries energy or really in the Libra energy. And it's like, how do you feed both mouths, right? That's the big question. Um, so in this case, it's about finding the right types of relationships where you just feel like a Libra moon has this deep need for peace in relationships, right? That we all know. Deep need for peace in relationships, for harmonious relationships. They don't want just like crazy shit, you know, they want things chill. The Aries sun sometimes ruffles things up. So if you think of it like a continuum, it's like, you know, like being diplomatic, but still being diplomatic yet still assertive, and it takes time to really find that that middle ground, right? It's not just easy. It's not just overnight that you just find that middle ground. But because, you know, the moon's in the second in Libra and the sun's in the eighth in Aries, you know, that's about worth, right? And that's about like really the need to find what I like to call it, like it's almost like a set of rules. It's like a, you know, like a constitution for yourself, right? And you basically live your life based on all those rules. um which come from you, and that goes back to the whole idea of you finding your voice, your, you know, your unique voice. And it's really, really important to not allow others to kind of mess with that, I guess you could say. So yeah. Hmm, hmm, hmm. So I know we don't have a follow-up, but if you wish to add one, let me know. I'll give you a massive discount. A follow-up, like what most people do is they do the follow-up and the current astrology. So it's like a live session. There's not like a long wait like there was here, which thank you for your patience, by the way. It's because I was gone for a month in America where I wasn't able to do any readings, or 3 or 4 tops. Because I was with family, friends. I was only there for a month. I barely get to see my family. Um and yeah, so now I'm still playing catch up. But I just think it's just really important for an Aries Libra to understand that um they can sometimes like be hard on themselves, because like the Aries can come off as being like a little bit wild, like just saying things without thinking. But then, you know, you have that Mercury energy, right? That, or that not Mercury, that Mercury. So um you would probably be more, you know, there's like the potential for being someone who's like a ruminator, who, you know, who thinks about things very, very deeply, maybe even too deeply, too much. And it's like it can create issues with communication. Um, Really key aspect too is that the sun is square Neptune. So the sun in Aries it's usually like a very, and that creates a T-square between, you see, well, it's 10, yeah, I'll call, 10 degrees, I'll call that a T-square, that shoots out into Cancer in the 11th house, where Sun square Neptune and then Moon square Neptune, 10 degrees. It's very loose. You usually, but for this case, like that is all about like just issues with identity. And that's why it's so important for you to define like that, like what your rules are, like what you live by, right? And that goes with the third house, Pluto, and just being able to understand this lifetime is an extremely important one in overcoming something very, very deep. And trusting, and the key word is surrender, right? Surrender, trusting change, trusting the karmic change that comes, because karma is running a lot of your life, right? I'm not, you can read my article, it's pinned, about free will, so you'll know that how I feel about that. And that I do believe that we, we have a lot of free will, and it's just but it differs from person to person. It differs at different times in our lives. But yeah. Yeah, so that's massive. But like, yeah, so the T-square, so like that, like to me that's just like even as an Aries, like it's just like there can be like lots of difficulty defining like what's me, what's not me, right? Um so um so yeah, like what's me, what's not me, the best way to do that in this case is, fifth house Neptune is about having, like a lot of intuition, right? And channeling that intuition into your creative ventures, right? Um, but with the T square, and also there can be issues with, with the dad. It's an exact square. So it could have been like a dad who wasn't present much. There could be lots of secrets around the father. Usually the son's the father, who are the more dominant parent. Yeah, it's probably the father. And yeah, so it's not so easy. But the resolution point of a T square is like a bow and arrow, and it shoots out right onto your palace, which is your strategic mind and your third eye in the 11th in Cancer. And that's about how you can use emotional intelligence. And also it's about friends, and it's about larger than life goals and humanitarianism, and how by basically like Cancer 11th house, I always think of that is like your friends are your family, right? So being able to like find like-minded souls is like one of the best possible gifts. Um, and then, but like the really important thing though is to make sure that these friends are not people that are kind of perpetuating um anything related to any kind of conditioning, because you're trying to really get out of that. So that is vital, very vital. Um, I would say that another thing with that T-square is about, as a Libra moon and air moon, there can be issues with just emotions in general, So the more you're in Cancer, able to lean into these emotions, the better. Um, and being able to, fix things with, at least internally, in relation to family, right? Um, even if, like, let's say there's like a type of relationship that's like beyond repair. Just having some water, sorry. Bubbly water, my favorite. So yeah, even if there's something that's like beyond repair, um, it's still really important to kind of find that peace within yourself. Like, just hypothetically, let's say there's like a parent who really kind of screwed you over, and like, they say that resentment is having resentments for people is like drinking poison and hoping that someone else gets sick from it, when obviously it's just you. So it's really important to be able to overcome that. Obviously, easier said than done, but there's different things you can do. I'm like I do astrological counseling as well, and yeah, I have 2 masters in psychology. And with some clients, I've done different exercises around, writing a letter, a hypothetical letter to a parent, to an ex, whoever, right? And you don't actually send it; you actually burn the letter. But in doing that, you let go of a lot of energy. Um, so it's very healing to do things like that. And I think through like even something like poetry, you know, that can be very very good too. And Neptune fifth house is all about that. Um, mm, mm. I would say that you have this ability to just get these lightning intuitive hits that help guide you in your life. But the key is to make sure that your that kind of Virgo part of you is not blocking the path, like the part of you that can kind of doubt yourself at times, all that. Like, that's really important. Um and I've seen that quite a bit, right? Where that is the case, where Virgo risings can be very perfectionist and hard on themselves, and it kind of pushes them away from being able to get to that Piscean oneness. So that's another, you know, um, that's another one that's important. Um, so if you do have anything, related to perfectionism, it's just really important to yeah, to really look at that closely, and learn to forgive yourself, learn to have self-compassion, and yeah, I mean that's very, very, very important. Without self-compassion, things are very rough. Um, and yeah, so moon, trining Chiron, that's like another indication of you being someone who can really put people at ease, and be a healer. So that's pretty cool stuff. Um, and yeah, like the Venus is squaring the moon. So yeah, with love, I kind of highlighted a lot of stuff. Venus in Aries is somewhat of a difficult placement, but so it kind of goes with like the Sun and the Venus are opposite. It's the same thing as like the Sun, like just like that same Aries idea of Aries in Libra, right? It's an air moon, like I was saying, like you might not feel emotions like that quickly, right? Like a Cancer, like something happens to the Cancer and the Libra moon, Cancer moon and Libra moon at the same time. The Cancer moon cries, the Libra moon, doesn't feel it till 8 months later, you know? Um, does that mean that the Libra moon doesn't have emotions? No, your moon sign doesn't dictate that. But at the same time, at the same time, there's just a disconnect, right? There can be a disconnect because Aries Venus, like, it wants to go and get. And your Venus is trine Uranus, which is nice. I like that. It makes you really want to have like relationships where there's lots of space. And that goes with that Mars energy, right? So Venus is trine Mars too, which is very good also. But so the kind of relationship you'd want would be someone who gives you a sense of peace, gives you freedom, gives you into space to kind of like be yourself. And when I think of Mars and Sag, it's someone who's an adventurer, right? Like, so I was telling you that before. Juno being like your ideal partner, even someone who has like a little bit of unpredictability to them, but also who grounds you. Fourth house, right? It's about family, home. So someone who in themselves feels like family. And there could be an energy here in this chart of someone who wants to create a strong family because maybe perhaps growing up they didn't have that, but you know everything was meant to be the way it was because of how it aligns with your karma, right? So then Ceres, in Virgo, um you feel nurtured by well, it's a nice placement of Ceres. It's kind of like a second moon but not as important. um well, actually, before I go into that, like last thing I'll say about like the Venus in Aries is that even like even women who have that tend to be go-getters in love. 1 second. They tend to be go-getters in love, right? So that's not always the case, with that Neptune energy and the Mercury retrograde. It can another really interesting thing about Mercury retrograde natally is that people with that can sometimes take past life persona, like not personas, but like they can sometimes project past life versions of different individuals, right? Um, so it's like, let's say you have like a sibling in this lifetime, right? You might be you like, and my brother has this, and he does. And I when I read this, it's just like, or when I learned this, I don't know, I learned it, but I just like, I just was like, wow, so true. It's like there can be a tendency to project past life identities onto people in your current life. Um, that's just something to think about. But anyway, um, so yeah, definitely like someone who can be a very, a healer that helps other people find their voice once they find their voice. Someone who can be a very powerful communicator once they get past any kind of trauma related to feeling like like their way of thinking is not valid, because it is. And then Jupiter with the vertex in the seventh house just means that there'll be lots of luck and fate, lucky fate in your relationships. Invest the seventh house Pisces, like you're on a very spiritual path. You're committed to a spiritual path. You have the potential for it, and you'll work very hard also in relationships. You'll be someone who work hard and just work hard in general. A very strong worker, committed to that spiritual path. Um, so that's pretty cool stuff. Um, what else? What else? What else? Hmm. Definitely, yeah. So I already kind of said this, but like I just don't see you being someone who, well, the Antares Saturn kind of is interesting, but like, um, usually people who have that fourth house Uranus, it's like, it's not like, maybe they like moved around, like parents are divorced, or potentially, and they got used to kind of like moving around a lot growing up, and as a result, it's not so hard for them to just like pick up and go. Not always the case though. Not always the case. And yeah, so definitely able to kind of like communicate, um like, that's kind of cool though, because like you can kind of communicate through your emotions in a sense. And really have like an emotional connection, not only to your friends, but to your, like, to humanity, and to like your like the plans you have for yourself, you know? Like the larger than life plans you have for yourself. Um, yeah, Sirius in Virgo, I just think that there's like enjoying Earth, enjoying, feel nurtured by, when people, loved ones, like really do the small things and notice you when you do the small things, as a Virgo rising. And when you feel like you can like go deep into your spiritual world and have that space, but then also be independent. like, and kind of just like lots of freedom in your life. And of course, the moon in Libra, feeling really good when things are, yeah, are comfortable, when things are chill, when there's peace. You don't want relationships that are just rambunctious and volcanic. Um, and yeah, Vertex 7th house, like doorway to higher awareness is through relationships, part of fortune, like, on my sun, 28 Pisces, like, you are at your best, and I haven't like gone in the 8th house sun yet, really. You're at your best when your flow state is kind of like when you are just kind of like in spiritual union, it doesn't depend on anyone, right? Because the Libra moon, the key is to not depend on anyone, and not depend on relationships to make you happy. So then how that relates to like, yeah, the spiritual relationship with yourself, when you're really feeling that oneness, also even being through service, that's amazing. 8th house sun, so I'm an 8th house sun also. I know that in class this would be 7th, so that would just, the difference would be that would speak to relationships being a massive role, part of your life, and a big learning ground. But I already covered that. You see a whole sign, like I already covered that by all these being in the 7th house in whole signs. Basically, 8th house sun, super fascinating. You go through many lives in just this life alone. And that's also shown by all that Pluto energy you have. Um, so yeah, I mean, it speaks for itself, right? Uh, I always say like people with 8th house suns, they can they can feel almost as if, there's like these different eras. They're so distinct in their life that it feels like it was like an actor or an actress playing them. And I find that quite profound based on feedback I've people have given me, when I said that, which has been a lot of times I've said that. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. Hmm. So yeah, let's take a look at. Take a look at this. Hmm. And you're probably wondering, how the hell do you tell? I just got good at it somehow. Okay. Ooh, wait, is that Angel? That's Astro. Urania. Yeah, wow. So you have Urania conjunct Venus. So you could be meant to be an astrologer. Urania is the asteroid of astrology, and it's conjunct your Venus in Aries. So that is a very, very interesting thing. Anything related to the stars. Um, yeah. So going back to your midheaven in Gemini, ruled by Mercury, in Pisces, you could literally be someone who's meant to be doing what I'm doing, or your version of it, right? Mhm. You have a wealth star on your midheaven, Regel, so that just gives like very good for honors in your profession and just overall, like I said, it's a wealth star. So you know, with all the eighth house you have, like I would be surprised if I mean, yeah, there is that second eighth kind of like energy in your chart already. So like there could have been some karmic lessons around money early on, but usually when I see a chart like this, I don't really think like, you know, their biggest lesson was meant to be around money, typically. Um, yeah, usually it's not the case. Mm, hmm, I know that one already. White Moon Selena on your IC. That gives you spiritual protection from your ancestors. Really interesting. Um, so yeah, 29-degree Mars. I didn't really go into that. Basically, like, you're really here to turn the page when it comes to philosophy, like just your philosophy in general. But you have to watch out for like being, um, I guess you could say like overly dogmatic, and it's just really important to be open-minded for you. Um, really important. Sometimes people who have that, there can be like an energy of um, just yeah, just not giving others a chance, I guess. So yeah, it's just like it goes back to what I was saying earlier, just like really, really with everything, hear everyone out and you don't just yeah you don't just come to a conclusion, like you really just you have to be the one who's doing the exploring. And it's just a very like important turning point in your soul's evolution. So yeah, yeah. Definitely like kind of a seductive energy, which could definitely come through in your artwork if you have artwork or creative work. And Also, I forgot to kind of say that like having Mercury on the descendant makes communication in relationships extremely important, and it adds an element that I didn't really go into about kind of you and your love language, being that there's just this massive need for there's just a massive need for being able to be heard, to really truly feel heard. If you catch what I'm saying. So that's like one of the big things, like with this whole chart is, I've said it a million times, like the potential for feeling and for really feeling misunderstood, and for really not just getting like everything. I'm not gonna go into it again. I said these things enough, but in relationships that are gonna work, you need that, you need to feel like you can just say whatever, and that's why like a big lesson. Um, can't hear my mouth. For you is around communication in this lifetime. So the best way to kind of make sure that happens well, or that things go well in that department, is through um, having a creative outlet where you're activating your right brain every single day, whether it's journaling, poetry, whatever, doesn't matter. And okay, so yeah, you have every element. So yeah, and there's nothing there. Lust conjunct Mars. Ooh, so lust is like the sexy. And I say this, I have no idea what you look like. Just so you know, I tell every client that, and it's true. I don't look at any Instagram photos by the time the reading comes around. I have no idea what they look like, but I have a lot of experience with lust because my girlfriend has lust rising, and she gets a lot of people obsessed with her. And Aphrodite is kind of beauty, lust is just pure sexy. And a lot of times, with the eighth house Venus, that could kind of contribute, like I'm I just got frozen and said iPad lost. Let me disconnect my iPad. But I'm not saying that there's secret love affairs, or like, it's not just that. It could be like forbidden love, but also like the goal is just like really, really, really deep love, like it's not so, really, really, really deep love. 1 second, I need to disconnect. Yeah, so just really, really, really deep love. But lust, is just very yeah, it's a sexual energy that with Mars can, it can be quite it can make people quite attracted to you on that level. So yeah. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you so much. Let me just see one other thing. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Um, Lots of interesting things going on in your chart. So let me know about, like I said, most people are doing this this reading, this recording, plus um they get the recording, they like it, they're like, wow, I want to talk to him. If they just, most people get the reading and follow up. I think you just got, you just got the reading. So let me know. I'll give you a massive discount to add both. It's the follow, or if no one ever does this, but you can, add just the follow-up, which is an hour conversation live, um, just about the natal chart, not about like what's going on with the current astrology. What most people do is they add the two together, which ends up being like around a 3-hour Zoom session where the first hour is the follow-up, and then after that we go into what I call current astrology / spiritual alignment. I go over all the predictive astrology stuff. I literally said predictive astrology as I looked at a book that says predictive astrology. That was weird. And it's really amazing session, lots of synchronicities. So yeah, let me know if you would like to do that, and it's not a long wait. I just, whatever my next available time is, it's never that long a wait. Oh my God, I think I kept it under 90 minutes. Wow, I'm like I've been like struggling to do them and they still say everything in the same way, but like in less amount of time. But I did an astrocartography that was like, I wasn't even trying. That was literally exactly an hour. And then I did this one that was like 90 minutes. So beautiful, beautiful. All right. Thank you so much. And I will send this. Obviously you'll get it when you get it. But I hope to do that other session with you. But regardless, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. You'll have this reading forever, ever, ever, ever. All right. Ciao.